What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Torrence, and in today's video, as you can see, I am playing with my favorite eyeshadow color, green. If you're someone who watched my previous anti-haul video, I'll leave that video linked right here above. But in that video, I talked about how I truly thought the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Blood Money palette was absolutely beautiful, but on how I was not going to get it. It is very, very difficult to get me to turn down a green eyeshadow palette, and so far I've been able to stick to my word and not purchase it, but I have not been able to get it off my mind. Every time it comes across my TL on Instagram, or anytime I see someone wearing green eyeshadow in person, it instantly brings me back to the fact that that is the latest green palette that has come out that I did not purchase. And I'm trying to remind myself that you don't need any and everything that comes out on the market. One, because the cost is way more than I could afford. And two, even if I could actually afford to purchase every green eyeshadow palette, there's never enough time to use them all. But I wanted to go back into my collection, see what products I already own and could use to make me forget about that palette. And so far, I just could not think about it. But then one day while I was watching YouTube, a video by Kelly Gooch came across my timeline, and she mentioned if you have two different products that I already have, it could help you achieve the look of the Blood Money palette. And I instantly went, she's got to be kidding me. You've got to let me know what those two palettes are. And she told us in the video, and I instantly ran and grabbed them and rearranged those shades to make sure I can create my own. And I'm telling you, honey, she's absolutely beautiful. Look at her. When I tell you, honey, I feel like a proud parent whose kid just came home and told me they made the honor roll with a straight A report card. I'm looking like, wait, you did that? Oh, look at my baby out here stunting on them. Oh my goodness. I am telling you, to create this palette is about half the price of the Blood Money palette. And to know this is only two different pre-made palettes from an affordable brand, you couldn't tell me nothing about it. I had to hurry up and immediately recreate this palette, and for the first time I wanted to go ahead and use it because although I've used one of the palettes offline, the other one I was saving specifically for this video, and I cannot wait to tell you exactly which two palettes you can use to recreate this one. So if you would like to know, just continue to watch. But before we jump into this tutorial, I would love if you hit that subscribe button. If you already have, I would like to say thank you. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. But with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump into swatches. Alright, you guys, before we get started, I first want to make sure I give a very special shout out to Kelly Gooch. It was because of watching one of her videos. I can't remember exactly which one right now, but if for any reason I can remember exactly which video I was watching, I'll make sure I'll leave it linked right here above. But in one of her videos, she was talking about how if you took two different palettes from ColourPop, it would help you create not necessarily an exact copy, but something similar to the Jeffree Star Blood Money palette. And I was sitting back like, hold on. She put the pictures up in her video and I was like, wait a minute, it's not exact. But the colors that I'm missing are honestly the colors I don't want. So I was sitting back looking like, if I can take a ColourPop palette that I already own and use that to dupe out another palette that I once would refuse to buy, I'm there for it. And just in case you all haven't seen the Blood Money palette, I'll try to leave a picture of it right here above. To me, the palette is absolutely beautiful, but right now I'm not spending any money on Jeffree Star Cosmetics. And if you would like to know more details on the reasons why, you can check out my anti-haul video. I'll make sure I leave that linked right here above as well. But I immediately pulled my two palettes out because the two she were talking about are two I had simply because green is my favorite eyeshadow color. So I'm sitting back like, oh no. What you're not gonna do is tell me I can create something that I want out of something I already have. And this one here is the first palette. This one is called the Just My Luck palette. It was my favorite my second favorite of the monochromatic palettes. Although green is my favorite eyeshadow color, that Going Coconuts palette is just, oh, chef's kiss, baby. Like, she is amazing. But this one here, the green, is definitely right there at number 2. And these were one of the few palettes that I purchased from ColourPop that came in the plastic packaging. I'm someone who generally prefers cardboard packaging just because I find it easier to depot. But luckily, ColourPop has done the work for us because they allow you to take their shadows out of the palettes, whether they're in plastic or cardboard packaging, which is another reason why I love the brand. And one of the good things about these palettes is the fact that they do come with a mirror. I still haven't taken the plastic off of mine because 9 times out of 10, I'm not using the mirrors that are in palettes. I usually like to see a lot closer or a lot further than what I want to be sitting there holding an eyeshadow palette with. So I usually have a small handy mirror on the side of me. But these are the 9 shades that came in this palette. I decided to rearrange them back into their original order because in my personal collection, I've taken all of my ColourPop palettes apart and put them in my own preference. But for today's video, I wanted to show you exactly what the layout would look like if you were to purchase it yourself. And because this palette only has 9 different shades, I can go ahead and show you swatches of all 9 colors at one time. I'm going to be showing them by row. So this top row will be shades 1 through 3, this one will be 4 through 6, and then 7 through 9. And I'll do the same for the next palette. But before we move further, I want to give you a close-up view of this palette. Honey, I consider this to be 9 pans of heaven. Anytime you can give me all greens, I'm gonna love it. It does have that one brown in there, but considering I can use that to deepen up any of the other shades, we're gonna go ahead and take it. But sometimes I just wish they would always go for it. The way the Give Me Glow Juice the Olive palette is, just give me an all green palette, honey. I already have browns, I don't need them. Now sis, get into these colors here. When I tell you I am someone who absolutely loves green eyeshadows, and this palette here just excites me. We have them swatched, all 9 colors, left to right. And the shades started on the left-hand side are number 1, Chances Are. Shade number 2 is Kiss My Ass. Shade number 3 is 50-50. Shade number 4 is Big Banks. Shade number 5 is Mary Jane. Shade number 6 is Olive You. Shade number 7 is Act Natural. Shade number 8 is Mo Bamba. And that last shade number 9, although it could technically be considered a green, it looks very brown tone to me once you put it on the eye. That one is called Charmed. Now, although that first palette was an old favorite in my collection, the second one was something that was new to my collection, so I was sitting back like, wait a minute. Not only did I love the packaging, but you mean to tell me I can use that with something I already have and love and create something better? I was already on it. So the second palette you're gonna need with the Just My Luck one is the Child palette. I am telling you, honey, this is easily the cutest packaging they've ever released. When they first launched it, I tried to stay away from it because if you know anything about Star Wars fans, they are collectors, honey, and they will crash a website. I missed out on the 2 Star Wars palettes from the Pat McGrath release. One, because I honestly didn't have the money at the time, but even the friends that I know who tried to get on it, it sold out so fast they didn't get it. But luckily, Pat McGrath came back and re-released those shades, so although I don't have that packaging, I managed to get all of the colors without paying that full price, so I'm not mad about it. But when it came to this one, honey, on the first launch, I stayed back. I said, I'm gonna let those fans have it. We're not going for it. We'll wait for the restock. And on the restock, I managed to get it. But I must tell you, the Super Shock shadows in this palette did come broken. I reordered, they came broken again, so I said, you know what, we're just gonna sit back, we're gonna repress them. It's not that much of a deal for me to keep going back and forth with this. So if for any reason you can find it in your Ulta store, I would recommend getting it that way. Taking it through the mail, you have a risk of it breaking, but it will repress beautifully. And once we get on the inside, you can see this seems like another green palette, but these colors seem much more neutral and much more wearable. Something that I was looking at it and I kept telling myself, she nice, but I wish she was a little bit deeper and darker. But the packaging is what sold me and I had to have it. So I'm glad I have it in my collection, but I technically never used this on the eye. So today I'm gonna make sure I give you a close-up view of it. Then we're gonna mash these 2 together. And then I'm gonna show you my personal layout on how I dupe the Blood Money palette. This palette also comes with a mirror and you can see that it has a Baby Yoda decal right there on the front. It's absolutely beautiful, but I don't want to blind you with it. And I'm going to show you the swatches the same way as I did with the other one. Shades 1 through 3 will be the top row, 4 through 6 on the middle row, and we'll continue on from there. But as you can see, this palette to me is for the person who likes greens, but also wants some neutrals in their palette. As we can see, the Child palette is much lighter and much more muted than the Just My Luck palette, which makes them that much better to pair together. But the shades for this left to right are called shade number 1, Precious Cargo, shade number 2, Right Hand Mando, shade number 3, Just Like a Tatooine, Shade number 4, Sipping Soup. Number 5, Babyface. Number 6, The Force. Number 7, Little Frog. Number 8, Float Your Crib. And number 9, Droid Protocol. And just because I want to make sure that I give you all really good close-up views, because a lot of times you're not sure until after you get through editing, I wanted to give you a close-up of the packaging of each palette now. This is the Just My Luck on the outside. This is the Just My Luck on the inside. And although I generally prefer cardboard packaging, I must admit, because this is plastic, anytime you get fallout or anything, it is a lot easier to clean this up. This one here is the Child palette, and tell me this is not adorable. Like, she is absolutely beautiful. I wanted to use the Just My Luck palette to cover the mirror and show you what the top half looks like. It does come with the mirror, but I don't want that to blind you with the reflection from the light. And this is what the palette looks like on the inside, and I am telling you, if you're someone who bought it strictly for the packaging, I would recommend taking the shades out and putting them in a magnetic palette instead of using them straight out of this one, because with this being cardboard, I'm sure it will clean up, but I'm not sure if every color will come out because this may become stained. So if you want it just for the packaging, I would recommend taking them out. Otherwise, you can just keep them in here. Now that you all know exactly which two palettes we're going to be using today in this video, I'm going to go ahead, wash these swatches off my arms, and when I come back, I'll show you exactly which order I place these palettes row by row. We're back, and I have the first row in the palette already, but I wanted to show you the magnetic palette that I'm keeping them in. I managed to get this Z palette, which is full of unicorns, on a discount. It was on the clearance rack, and anytime you put unicorns or mermaids on something, you're bound to catch my attention. And I just thought this was really pretty. I had already created a custom Ursula one, and so I didn't have to go in and create a unicorn one. I figured it was a lot cheaper, I would get it a lot faster. So I decided to just go ahead and grab this one and never had a reason to use it. Today is that reason. Although I might have preferred a green palette for this one, we're not going to be picky. We're going to use things that we already have and save ourselves some money. And look at that, it looked like it's little sprinkles on the inside. I didn't even notice that till just now. But we're getting besides the point now. Inside, I have the very first row of colors, and I wanted to tell you exactly which colors they are from which particular palettes, left to right. The first shade is Precious Cargo from the Child palette. The second shade is Chances Are from the Just My Luck palette. The third shade is Mary Jane from the Just My Luck palette. The fourth shade is I Love You from the Just My Luck palette. The fifth shade is Babyface from the Child palette. And the sixth shade is Kiss My Ass from the Just My Luck palette. Now that we've added our second row of colors, you can see just how much more green things are getting, and I'm telling you, they are getting much more beautiful with each row added. And we start things off with shade number 7, which is a matte green. This shade is called Float Your Crib, and this is from the Child palette. Shade number 8 is also from the Child palette, and it is called Right Hand Mando. Shade number 9, once again from the Child palette, is called The Force. Shade number 10 is called Big Banks, and it's from the Just My Luck palette. Shade number 11 is also from the Just My Luck palette, and it is called Act Natural. Shade number 12 is the last color on this row. This one is also from the Just My Luck palette, and this one is called Bamba. Look at her in all her glory, honey. Oh my goodness, tell me she's not beautiful. With that third row on there, honey, it is like, yes, you done came together. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to show you all the swatches of all 18 of these colors together. But first, I got to give you the order in which I put the last row of colors. Our first pan is shade number 13. This is Just Like a Tatooine from the Child palette. For shade number 14, also from the Child palette, we have Little Frog. Shade number 15 is called Sipping Soup, and this is also from the Child palette. Shade number 16 is the very last color we have from the Child palette, and this one is called Droid Protocol. The last two shades are from the Just My Luck palette, and this one is shade number 17. It's the last shimmery green, and it's called 50-50. And to finish things off with shade number 18 from the Just My Luck palette is our last matte shade. This one is called Charmed. And before we jump into this tutorial, I want to give you a close-up view of the colors in this palette here, and then I'll give you a close-up view of the swatches. Honey, look at this color story. You can't tell me anything about it. I think it is absolutely beautiful. And the fact that I have them as individual shadows, so if I just want to take one with me, I can. It allows me to do a neutral look because I have a transition in a crease shade brown. But more than likely, I'm not looking for neutrals. I'm looking for colors that can just ground this out. And to have all of these single pan colors from an affordable brand like ColourPop, you know I'm on it. So I cannot wait to test this out because although I've used the Just My Luck palette, I've never used all of the colors and I've never tried the Child palette. So let's go ahead and get into these swatches. And please excuse me for these terrible swatches here. There is no way for me to fit 18 colors on my arm at one time. So I wanted to show you the way that they would appear on the palette. This is the top row, this is the second row, and this is the third row here. But I think this color story is absolutely beautiful and I cannot wait to get into it. So if you all would like to see how I achieve this look, just continue to watch. And as with all tutorials, I'll make sure I leave all tools and products used in the description bar below. But I am so excited to jump into this, so we gotta hurry up and get things started. Because this is my first time using this palette, I want to get the best of neutrals and greens, so we're going to be a little more dramatic today. So we're going to start things off with shade number 13 here. This is Just Like a Tatooine from the Child palette, and we're going to use this as a transition shade for the inner half of our eye. Then we're going to jump up here to shade number 5 and use this shade here, Babyface. This is also from the Child palette, but we're going to use this as a transition for the outside half of the eye. Alright, let's get things started, and I am telling you, the first thing you notice with this shade here is she is dusty, baby. And the palette, she gives a ton of kickback. The thing is, she went on real fast though, and blended out real quickly, so I'm going to go in with one more layer. It's because we have so much kick up right here, and we're going to see if she builds up and give us even more color for this first half. She's definitely showing up, that much I'll give her. And as quickly as she blended out, you can be as dusty as you want, honey, as long as you perform well. Oh yeah, I'm liking that, and I can honestly see their transition shade on this side compared to this side. Alright, gonna jump cut, do this side, and I'll be right back. And honey, the one thing I can tell you is that color by itself is so pretty. I know for sure, even if I don't use it to use this particular palette, I'm going to be coming back in for that one shade. Because I don't like the fact that it has so much kick up, but as fast as that blended out, we're going to keep our mouth shut and keep it moving. Now to do the transition for the outer half of our eye, and truth be told, this shade Babyface was just as powdery, but I am hoping that it is just as blendable. Because baby, what we don't want is shades that's giving us issues, but not blending and working out. And although she is a light shade, she is a nice pigmented shade. She appeared to be buffing up good. Truth be told, the inner half may look a little darker now. Before I go back in and get a little more, I wanted to buff that out before I go back in and see if a second layer is going to give us more pigmentation. We're going to go in just to see if she gets any deeper. So I must admit, with the Child palette, this is giving me way more kick up than I'm used to from ColourPop. But the pigmentation is there and the blending is there, so not sure what they did differently, but so far no issues. Gonna go ahead. And that's cute, so what I'm gonna do is do this on the other side and I'll be right back. Alright, so far things looking a little washed out just because we got these soft pastel-y shades. But you know, I'm all about my crease and deepening things up because I have slightly hooded eyes. So we're about to jump into these next few shades to give us a little more color. Now to deepen up my crease for the inner half of the eye, we're going to go into shade number 16 here, Droid Protocol. This is from the Child palette. Then we're going to jump up to shade number 11. This is Act Natural from the Just My Luck palette. And we're going to use that to deepen up the outer half of our crease. Now that I've picked up Droid Protocol, I can let you know this shade is also powdery, but not nearly as much as the first two shades. So I'm hoping we still get our pigmentation and our nice blend, but it was not giving me nearly as much kick up. It is deepening up. Okay. Definitely gonna want to go in and get us a second layer of that color there. And I can definitely tell you that that Child palette is much more lighter and much more pastel than the Just My Luck palette. Gonna go in one more layer, see what kind of pigmentation we get on that one. We're gonna start things off really low in the crease because we want to get things as dark and deep as possible. And then we can always lift our brush up later and diffuse those edges. Okay, and that second layer is definitely what gave us the color we needed. That first one was looking a little ashy. And I like to bring my brush up as high as I can get it to diffuse those edges because I like a nice blend. Alright, now that I'm satisfied with that, we're going to go ahead and do this on the other side and I'll be right back. Start off really low, then blend up high after we're satisfied with the blend. Look at that, honey. I'm telling you, with eyeshadow, all I care about is the blend, the placement and all that. When I'm trying to get my crease colors going, they always look a mess until you cut the crease and put your lid shades on. So we're not even going to be worried. We're going to jump to this outer half and start putting in our darker green colors. Now it's time to do our outer crease with the shade Act Natural. And this one here, once again, it's rather powdery, but for it to be a green, it didn't give me quite as much kickback as I thought it would. But we hoping we give us 4 out of 4, everything we need to be pigmented and blendable. We're going to start off here, lowering the crease. Ooh, and you see she brought the pigment off jump. Baby, she said second layer. Ooh, we're going to give it to you now. And I always like to try to get as much product off the brush, as low in the crease as possible. Then we can take and buff and blend that up high. Once we're satisfied with the placement and the blend, want to slowly move up. And just because we want things to be as dark and deep as possible, we are still going to go in with the second layer. Make sure these two meet. Don't want a gap in between the two. Go in and get one more layer just to see what full opacity is going to look like for this color. I'll start off once again low. Get that as deep as possible. Ooh, look at how pretty this color is. Buff and blend her up and out. And I don't mind taking her further out than what I need her, simply because I know once I clean up my eyeshadow, I can make that line as crisp or as smooth as I want it, but I need the colors to come all the way out to give me options. And because that bone right there always try to give me a little issues, I always spend a few extra seconds, blend it right there, and make sure these two meet. Don't want a patchy spot right there, but baby, boom, brown in the front, green in the back. Okay, let me see if I can buff this out just a little bit further, just in case something in the last second tell me go ahead and feather her out. Probably won't do it, but we still want that option. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, because I'm liking what that look like, I'm going to do this on the other side and I'll be right back. And baby, look at that. I am telling you, I know I always complain about getting a brown and a green palette, but anytime I use them together, honey, they always come together and create something beautiful. So instead of being mad that I got these browns, we're going to go ahead and be happy that we have the option to at least do one neutral look. But today ain't the day, honey. We going dramatic. So let me go ahead and put this brush down and find me another one, because we're going to cut our crease and I'll be right back after we do so. But of course, honey, we have to take and cut this extremely high and in front of the lid. Like, there's no way I would have it any other way. So we're going to start off with that, cutting it high. See where we need that to go. Then we're going to go ahead and bring this right in front. Bam, I want a full brush stroke length. Then we'll connect those two pieces. Alright. I want a little more further in the back. I want this to be more rounded. I want this to be way high. And you just bring it down, coat everything, and I always have to remind myself to get close to the lash line because I will have that small little gap right there that is just not covered at all. I want to make sure all areas have that adhesive to give us full opacity from the colors we put on top. Alright, ain't no point in boring y'all with that a second time. I just jump cut through this one. Bam, baby, it is time to go ahead and get colorful on them. I am not sure exactly which shade we want to get into, so let me go ahead and grab me a brush and a silicone applicator. But first, oh, I almost forgot, honey. We got to go back in and fill up our outer V. Because we've already used that glitter adhesive to cover up that shade Act Natural, we got to go back in with the same brush and just pack it right there on the outer V. I need that shade to show you that's what blended out from the crease. And I can bring this in just a little bit further because I know I'm going to want to deepen that up a little bit with another shade. So we're going to do that on both sides before we go in with our lid shades. Baby, I'm so excited to get a green eyeshadow look going because I'm telling y'all, out of every color in the rainbow, green just does it for me when it comes to eyeshadow. I don't know why, I just like it. And the fact that I'm creating a custom palette has me even more excited. But the fact that we're doing it without a black is like, oh wait, honey. You know you asking for it when you asking for happiness and you don't give me a matte black. But we think we're going to be able to achieve it. And just looking at these colors so far, honey. Oh yeah, I am loving it. I can't wait, I can't wait. So I got to look at this and I got to see what shades we're going to put on the lid. I'm still not 100% sure on exactly which shades I want to use. But for the inner half, we're going to start off with shade number 9. This is the Force from the Child palette. Then for the outer half of my lid, we're going to jump down to shade number 17. This is 50/50 from the Just My Luck palette. Alright, with this shade here, the Force, it has a really weird texture. And I'm not 100% sure if a brush is the best method of putting it on. I'm just sitting here looking at it and looking at how it's picking up on the brush. And we're going to try it this way, but then we're going to get to the other side and we're going to try that with the silicone applicator to see if that works a little bit better. So we're going to grab our mirror here because I was so focused on this color that I wasn't even looking. I was so focused on this color that I wasn't paying attention to the fact that I'm not even going to be able to see. But we're going to start this on the inner half and we're going to bring it all the way in to where we cut it in front of our lid. And we're going to put this up to that halfway point. And although this looks more like a neutral in the pan, you truly do see that green undertone that comes through. And to me, that's my type of neutral brown or neutral gold, one that has a slight green undertone, where unless somebody truly in your face, they may not notice that it's green, but it's my way of saying I'm supposed to be being basic, but I'm sneaky and wearing a little bit of color. Okay, and it went straight on with one full layer with the brush though, so I'm not mad at it. We're gonna go ahead, try to pick up a little more product and see if this builds and blends with the brush. Going slowly on the front half. Okay, yep, I'm getting much more shine and much more opacity now with the second layer. I'm gonna grab a little bit more because I didn't grab enough for this part. All right, I didn't think a brush would get this going, but it appeared that it has. But for the next eye, I want to see it with a silicone applicator, just in case I come back and decide I want to wear this stuff again. We know exactly what tools we're going to grab things with. Okay, and the silicone applicator had no issues with picking product up. Let's see if... Okay. Now, funny enough, although it appears the silicone applicator picked up product a little bit faster, it's not necessarily, it's actually blending it a little faster too. It's not giving me that foiled color that the brush is giving me. I'm guessing because my brush has more fibers to it, so it can pick up a lot more product. I'm looking at this second layer. Yeah, it's definitely coming out better with the brush, so we're gonna go ahead and put that back. I wasn't 100% sure if that was the Super Shock formula or not, and now that I'm digging more and more into this palette, I can see that it's not. It was just a hard pressed shimmer. That may have been that color that I had to repress, because one of them colors did come completely shattered in both palettes, and so I had to repress them myself. So I'm thinking that's what it was. It was one of those shades that I repressed, but it's definitely coming out better with the brush. So we're not gonna argue with her. We're just gonna go ahead and let her do her thing. This next shade, 50-50, honey. She is a dark green, and baby, I am loving it. She's going on nice. She did seem a little dry in the pan. In this first layer, I can tell it's not a matte, but she's not giving me, you know, the level of shine of a foiled shadow. So she just may be a regular shimmer. Yeah, with that second layer, she has some shine to her, but she's definitely not a foiled or a metallic shade. But she's definitely green. Look at that. Baby. I am liking her, and she definitely built up really quickly. So we're just going to jump ahead and do this on the other side. And I'll see you all in a second once I get through with this side. Honey, when I tell you, all I see is all this green, and it just got me so excited. I just nearly froze up right there looking in the camera like, baby, it's been so long since you did an all green look. I'm telling you all, before YouTube, that's all I cared about. I didn't care about a purple, a pink, a brown. I could wear greens every day and not have any issues. But it feels good to be back, honey, I am telling you. Before we go ahead and switch things off, I want to go in and deepen up my outer V just a tiny bit. So let me see what shade in here is deep enough to do so. Before I go in and finish off the rest of my face, I want to go into this last color here, shade number 18. This is the shade Charmed, and it's from the Just My Luck palette. I want to use this with the tiniest blending brush I have and use that to deepen up my outer V. And I have a very small blending brush here, and I want to use this, and I'm going to just press it right there on the very outermost tips and sweep that back. I don't want to completely cover up the green that we already have there, but I do want the deepest part of my outer V to be the darkest. And you can tell I'm definitely going to need to clean up with some concealer because I'm bringing that right here. But we know we can always make that better later. But for now, it's all about deepening up the color right here and giving us a little more depth. Tiny, tiny bit more just to make sure. Bam! I'm telling you all, I am excited. I cannot wait to see exactly how this turns out. So what I'm gonna do is jump ahead, finish off my face, and I'll be back to show you how we'll finish off the eyes. Honey, can you see why I love green so much? Like, get into this. Honey, this is way too much, and I am loving every bit of it. Especially considering the fact that I'm getting ready for bed. There's no need to have on this much makeup. but I just didn't trust myself to wake up in time and get it all done. So off camera, I want to show you exactly what products I used because I was having fun and I was just reaching, grabbing for some of everything. Even though I had a certain look in mind, that did not happen here. So let's get into it. First off, in order to bake my face, instead of going in with my normal mixture, I decided to switch things over to my Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Instant Retouch Setting Powder. This is in the shade Banana, and I completely forgot how much I love this powder. I used to have it in a shade darker, but I realized usually whatever shade I can use to bake underneath the eyes, I can go in and use that all over the face. So I gave that to my sister, but this shade here is absolutely amazing. I love not only how finely milled and how smooth this powder is, but I forgot that it does have a slight scent, and usually I'm not the biggest fan of scented products, but to me, this one, it just seems nice. It seems soft and feminine and luxury, and not only that, this container here is absolutely amazing. It does feel a little big and bulky for a powder, but I'm telling you, once you empty this out, reusing these containers is absolutely amazing for other powders. Sometimes I like to mix powders together whenever one color doesn't give me exactly what I want. But I wanted to use this just to go ahead and switch things up for today's tutorial, and I don't regret it one bit. And since I was already loving Fenty Beauty, I decided today for my mascara, I wanted to pull out my Full Frontal Volume Lift and Curl Mascara. I have this here in the shade Cause I'm Black, wearing that on the top and bottom lashes. Although you can tell right there on the top lashes, it wouldn't have mattered what mascara I'm wearing. Because this eye look is so big and so dramatic, I wanted a really large, big lash to go with it. These lashes, I believe, are the Eylures number 145 and Exaggerate. And you can tell, these are exaggerated, honey. I normally do not wear lashes this big, but for today's look, it was right on point. And while we're still talking about eyes, I wanted to show you that on my lower lash line, because I love my favorite Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On eye pencils, I wanted to pull out my green eyeliners, and I wanted to use one that I haven't used on camera before. This one here is in the shade Mildew, and although I generally prefer matte eyeliners, this one here does have a slight shine to it, but to me, that's exactly what makes it beautiful. It does take, I would say, just a little more effort than it would for a matte one, but the final color there is nice, it's bold, it's green, and I have it, I'm not going to get rid of it, and I would recommend it. For lips, I wanted to go ahead and keep it neutral, but I wanted to make sure I stuck with brands that I love. So for lip liner, I have the Lip Bar Straight Living Smudge Proof Lip Liner on. I put that on the top and the bottom lip, and once I buffed that out, I went back in and overlined the bottom lip just a little bit more, simply because I find when I buff out my lip liner, the ombre is a lot more noticeable on the bottom lip than it is the top lip. And I didn't want the pink on the bottom lip to come through that strongly. I wanted this look to be a lot more brown, so I have that there. And I topped it off with my Juvia's Place lip gloss in the shade It's Electric. I've had this for a minute, but I've never found a reason to use it. And I didn't want to go in with a green lip today because I figured that would compete with the eyes. And just because we have gold on the inner half of the eyes, I figured this lip gloss would be complementary to that. So we have that on here, and I'm absolutely loving it. And the main thing that got me focused on these lips is that highlighter that I have there. I wanted something nice and strong, but I wanted something that was also going to give me a little green hue to it. So I pulled out an old school Becca highlighter. This was from their Light Chaser collection. This one here is Topaz Flashes Gilt. And although I believe their Topaz highlighter is a little dark for my complexion, this one here is absolutely beautiful and can be worn on an everyday basis. Well, for me, because I don't mind wearing a dual chrome highlighter, but I'm telling you, I purchased all 6 of these highlighters from this collection. Many people may be over the iridescent trend. Some people call it the mermaid trend, the unicorn trend, whatever you call it. I love it, and I'm always going to be here for it. So I'm glad I have all 6 of these. And I believe they still sell these on the Becca website. In stores they're sold out, but they're always on clearance. So I would recommend trying one of these out if you like the formula. The last thing that I'm wearing on the face is something I never tried before. This is from Bare Minerals. It is their Bounce and Blur Blush. This is in the shade Mauve Sunrise. I believe this is a sample blush because I have one of their full sizes and I know it's not this small, but this color was actually rather nice. It looks like a cream formula in the pan, but it does blend the way a powder does, and it has a nice sheen to it, so it doesn't come off as flat. And although when I first swatched it, it did look a little ashy, but once I got it on the cheek, it's nice and beautiful. You can actually see it there, and it's peeking right underneath my green highlighter. And I keep going back and forth because I put that highlighter here on the forehead as well as on the chin and across the lips because green is my color, honey. I know for many people it may make them look sick, but for me, honey, I'm feeling like Medusa, honey. I'm just loving all the green that I'm wearing. But we're not quite through with this look yet. We still have to highlight our inner corners and our brow bone, as well as finish off the lower lash line. So let's go ahead and get into it. To make our lower lash line pop, I want to add a touch of green to it. So we're gonna go into shade 12 here. This is Bamba, and this is from the Just My Luck palette. And I want to take this on a very tiny push liner brush, and we're going to push that as close to the eyes as we can possibly get it. Although this isn't the darkest green in the palette, it is the darkest of the vibrant greens. And when we buff this out, we want that green to be really, really loud. We don't want any chance of you thinking that that's a subtle brown or anything. I want this green to scream. So we're going to bring that all the way from the inner to the outer corner. And once we have that there, we can go ahead, jump to the other eye, and I'll be right back once we finish. Baby, I can tell that that is green from across the room. I am loving it. But we have to make sure we buff things out because we don't want just a strong, harsh line right there. So let's find ourselves a transition shade. To diffuse our lower lash line, we're going to go into shade number 6, Right Hand Mando from the Child palette. And with this color, we can start on our outer corner and we're just going to buff this out. Oh yeah, honey. She's bold, loud, and green. Just what I wanted. I was debating on going in with a softer color, and now I am so glad that I didn't. Let me pick up just a little bit more. Tap that off and get that on the inner half. Baby, I am glad I did. Stick to my guns and pull out this loud color here. Connect that to that outer corner right there. But keep this buffed and keep it going, sis. Oh yes, I am loving that. Look at that. Even on camera, you can see how bold that green is sticking out. Oh yes, honey, I got to hurry up and use this again. Let's get this going. Baby, 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 look at that. She is turning out absolutely stunning. I cannot believe this. Look at that. Oh yeah. Let's hurry up and highlight our inner corner and our brow bone because I cannot wait to see the final look. To keep things rather subtle and natural underneath the brows, we're going to go into shade number 1. This is Precious Cargo from the Child palette, and we're going to use that to highlight underneath the brows. But to finish things off with a pop of color, we're going to come over here to shade number 3. This is Mary Jane from the Just My Luck palette. And I'm going to take this shade here, Precious Cargo, on a flat paddle brush. Truth be told, I believe you'll get better pigmentation with this shade using a silicone applicator because it is a super shock formula. But I want this to be as sheer as possible to give me a natural look underneath the brow. If I were going to put this on the lid, I definitely would go in with that silicone applicator. For this area right here, just getting a nice little bit of sheen and a few of those sparkles is what is best. We would not want the full opaque view of that color right there. You see those sparkles is just topping it off and keeping that green intact. So that's what I want. But to finish things off, honey, we're going to use that exact same brush with this shade Mary Jane. With this being a normal eyeshadow, the color is going to be much more pigmented, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to take this, go right here to the inner corner, and I just want that to layer right there. I want this to be a very loud green. And because we already have a color right there on the center of the eye, it's going to be a little bit brighter. But I'm going to go back in and I want to dip in just a little bit more to make sure everybody can tell that's a green inner corner highlight. Baby, and the way she builds on that second layer is unreal. Bam! Look at that, green. compared to nothing there. Well, I guess we do have a color there from the inner corner, but no inner corner highlight. So let me go ahead and jump ahead and finish this eye off real quick. Baby, look at that, look at that. Honey, I am telling you, this whole look, it's just giving me life, honey. Anytime I can rock greens, I am truly in love. And that's someone who used to wear green eyeshadows on an everyday basis. I really cannot wait to spray this and see what everything turns out in the end. So let me go ahead and grab my sprays because you all know the catchphrase. Fix Plus to give us a glowy do. All nighter so things last all day. Cheap fan, expensive breeze, good times. Gonna give this a few more seconds to dry and I'll be back to give you all my final thoughts. And this is the final look. Want to go ahead, give you all a full face view of things before I give you all my final thoughts. And honey, you know I got to be feeling this. Just sitting back, looking at this full look, the way the skin is glowing, the way no matter how I turn my face, whether I'm looking at the eyes, whether I'm looking at the highlighter, I'm getting a touch of green. You can't tell me nothing about it. And to think that a palette that I've been wanting for such a long time has finally dropped. I could not get it off of my mind. And now I have zero desire to even purchase it any longer. Because when I sit back and think about the fact that Torrence, you just really wanted a large palette that was centered around greens. I have several different palettes that are green based simply because green is my favorite eyeshadow color. The problem is most of them only go to about the 6 to 9 pan range before you realize about half of the palette is shades of brown. And I just wanted one palette that was really large. I understand I may not ever get a 30 pan palette. Like I'm telling you, if Viseart could ever give me a 30 pan all green palette, if y'all need startup fund money, just call me. I will be one of the first ones to help donate, honey. I might not have all the money to get everything going, but I promise you I will do my part. But you know what? Just looking at this now, it's like, Torrence, do you need any other green eyeshadow palette after this? No, but that ain't gonna stop me in the future. But to sit back and think that I could not stop thinking about that Blood Money palette, I wanted it, the packaging, the colors, the formula I've never tried, but I'm quite sure it would be good. But when I sit back and I look at this palette and I think of all of the different looks I can get out of it, the different textures, I have enough mattes to do a completely all matte green look if I want to. There's no need for that palette. I never knew what the formula was like because although I've played with the Just My Luck palette, I never tried the Child palette. And although it is a little more powdery than I would wish for, it blended and it builds like a dream. This look here is dramatic. I know if for any reason I want a softer look, I can just stick to softer colors, but this is absolutely stunning. I have a limited edition packaging on it, so although many people may be able to recreate this palette, there are probably even fewer people who will have this particular Z palette, so this one to me can seem custom and one of a kind, but it feels amazing to know I now have found joy in products that I already own, and I can share my ideas with the world because if you have these palettes, you can go ahead and recreate this look yourself. You don't necessarily have to always go out and purchase new things that are on the market to achieve that same look. Is this necessarily the exact same look you would get from the Jeffree Star palette? Probably not. Is that going to matter to me or anybody else who sees this? No. Nobody's going to look at this and say, oh, that's cute, but that's not the Jeffree Star Blood Money palette. They're going to see this, they're going to think it's beautiful, and they're going to keep it going. And to realize you can recreate this palette for probably half the price if you catch both palettes on sale. I was someone who was able to get the Just My Luck palette from the ColourPop website, but the Child palette was available on ColourPop as well as the Ulta website. So if for any reason you want either one of these palettes, I believe they both are still available. So I would recommend grabbing them both because I had no issues with any color from this palette so far. Although, once again, my biggest gripe is the fact that they are powdery. So if you want to keep them in their original packaging, the child palette may be much more difficult to clean than the Just My Luck because it's made out of plastic. But I recommend both palettes, and I truly recommend you taking both palettes and recreating your own version of the Blood Money palette. But I hope you all truly did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and also leave me a comment down below if for any reason you either A, purchased the Just My Luck palette, or B, purchased the Child palette. I'm someone who genuinely prefers the Just My Luck palette just because it has those darker jewel tones, and for me those show up better in the crease for someone who has hooded eyes. But the formula on the Child palette is really nice. It's just, to me, if you're someone who likes more neutral based greens, I would get the Child palette, or if you're someone who's not really confident in your blending and you want colors that are much more lighter, the Child palette will be better for you. But I have both, and I think anyone who enjoys greens will get both. And I'm telling you, I know I'm supposed to be heading to bed right now, but I think I may take just a few pictures and call a few friends on Zoom just so they can see this look, because this would have been absolutely amazing to wear to work. But with me being tabbed right now, I just did not trust myself to wake up early enough to get everything done, especially considering the fact that I had to do swatches for 18 different shades. That's something that involves a lot of hand washing, a lot of washing your arms, and I just wanted to make sure the quality was up to par so that you all got the best content in my videos whenever you're watching them. But as I've stated before, I need to be really headed to bed, and I know with my OCD, I will not be able to lay down until all products have been disinfected and all brushes have been cleaned. So although I'm about a half an hour from bedtime, chances are I'm going to be headed to bed late tonight. But once again, I hope you all truly did enjoy this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're also subscribed to the channel. If you already have, I would like to say thank you. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. But I've been talking long enough, and I keep telling myself I'm going to end this video. So with nothing else, I hope you all remember to practice, continue to stay blessed, and until next time, goodbye YouTube.